It is now
I'm sorry.
6 o'clock, and we let the record show that we do have a quorum present. We've got 5 people. So we'll go ahead and call the briefing work session to order. The first order on the work session is, number 1 is to discuss the agenda items.
Mayor and Council, tonight on your consent agenda, item 4A are the minutes from the September 19th City Council meeting. Item 4B is a resolution authorizing the procurement of LED illuminated street name signs from Consolidated Traffic Controls. This is an expenditure of $91,997. This is the third year of a 4-year program to install new signage, street signs on our intersections. And this meets the new federal mandated visibility standards with the illumination. These funds are budgeted in the FY18 Transportation Improvement and Safety Fund. Item 4C is a resolution authorizing procurement of traffic signal control cabinets through Paradigm Traffic Systems. This is also through Buy Board. This is in the amount of $75,000. Those funds are also budgeted in the FY18 Transportation Improvement and Safety Fund. Typically, we change out 4 traffic control cabinets a year. This purchase is for 6 cabinets because last year we had a traffic cabinet that blew out at Big Stone Gap in Santa Fe. You may recall when an Encore power line hit that pole and blew out the traffic control cabinet. So we had to take one that was scheduled for replacement and replace it. And then the second cabinet, or the second extra cabinet that's being purchased, is for the new signalized intersection at Wintergreen and Main Street when that project gets done.
Did we ever recover anything on that Big Stone Gap?
I don't think we did. We petitioned for them, but they Encore wouldn't take responsibility for it.
Okay.
They wouldn't pay us for a cabinet.
Their power line fell on our cabinet.
Item 4D is a resolution authorizing procurement of non-visual accessible pedestrian push buttons and signal preemption equipment. This is for some of our intersections. This is the second year of this program. We started this last year. These are ADA accessible type of buttons, so they have the visual signals on there, as well as a program for audible tones and vibrating surfaces. And as I said, these funds are budgeted in the FY18 Transportation Improvement and Safety Fund. Item 4E is a resolution approving conditions of a professional services agreement with Burgess and Nyepel to do sanitary sewer inspections. Each year we select a sewer basin to do an evaluation of our wastewater system to identify areas of inflow and infiltration into this system, because the more infiltration and inflow we have into our sanitary sewer, that is water that's going to TRA for treatment, which we pay for those treatment costs, but it is not water that we're getting a revenue for, so we try to minimize our I&I. And so this year we are proposing to do 2 sewer basins, the WC and the EV sanitary sewer basins, for an amount of $73,785. And this expenditure is also budgeted in the FY18 utility fund. Item 4F is a resolution approving the terms and authorizing payment to Conduent Government Systems, formerly Xerox, and this is for the amount of $57,552. Conduent is our provides software support for our banner software system. They bill us at the end of the fiscal year. In the past, those costs have been below $50,000 and didn't require council approval. Now it's above $50,000, so we're bringing this to you. In the memo, it said that the funding is allocated in the FY18 IT budget. Is actually coming out of the FY17 budget. It was budgeted for, so we're paying the FY17 expenses. And on your next council meeting agenda, you will have an item to pre-approve the contract for the next coming year. Since we expect it to be over 50,000 again, so we'll get pre-approval on that. This is to pay for past year services and will come out of the FY17 budget. And those funds are there. And then item 4G is a resolution authorizing the renewal of an agreement as the official newspaper designation with the Focus Daily News. This is an estimated annual expenditure of $35,000. We are required to post, publish various notices, including planning and zoning activity, ordinances, elections, public hearings, and so forth. And this is the final option, or final one-year renewal of a 3-year contract with the Focus Daily News.
How much was it last year?
Don't remember how much. I'm thinking it was probably about the same amount.
It's gone up a lot.
It is, but compared to the Dallas Morning News, it's a lot less.
Well, the Dallas Business Journal, they're high too.
In the official, being an official newspaper, there are certain requirements that it has to meet to be considered an official newspaper for publication purposes. So I know when the Suburban was in operation, they didn't qualify because they didn't meet those state requirements.
Well, they didn't deliver every day.
That's right. That's one of the
Well,
requirements.
I don't believe Focus does.
Well, we have a daily paper out there.
They have to be a weekly paper.
Yes, it's weekly.
Well, if it's weekly, then they do qualify. They did.
No, they were.
No, the Suburban didn't publish once a week. They published every other
Oh, that's
week.
right, every other week.
So yeah, the requirement is that it be published once a week. Those are all of the items on the consent agenda. On the regular agenda, the first item is 5A is a public hearing and ordinance for amending LR2 local retail 2 zoning for a specific use permit for a cosmetology school. This is at 928 South Cedar Ridge Road. This has gone through the Planning and Zoning Commission. And Chastity will be prepared to discuss that and present that. Item 5B is a resolution, 5B and 5C are related. 5B is a resolution amending the Economic Development Performance Agreement with SWH Duncanville. This is for the Hampton Inn and Suites. And this performance agreement was the one that would provide a rebate of up to $250,000 in hotel occupancy taxes to SWH for construction of the Hampton Inn and Suites. 5C is a economic development agreement between the DC EDC and SWH for $45,000 grant to them for their cost of permitting and construction. Both of these agreements were predicated upon SWH commencing construction within 1 year of entering into that agreement. They were not able to make that deadline because of various issues they had on the site for utility relocations, and the utility companies took a while to get that done. So they have been delayed in groundbreaking. They are anticipating to break ground here in November. So the proposed amendment is to allow them up to March to commence, and then continuing with the 18-month requirement to finish construction. Item 5D is to consider appointments to various boards and commissions. When you made your board and commission appointments in August, there were a couple of people who were appointed that were not able to serve, and one board at the time that we were interviewing heard that one board member was moving out of town. When we confirmed that, and so obviously was not eligible to serve. And then a couple of the other boards, we ended up with a vacancy that was not filled. So in your packet are the applications from various people and the list of the boards that have a vacancy. And then item 5E is to ratify the city manager's reappointment of John Marks to the Civil Service Commission to fill a 3-year term. This would be John's third term on the Civil Service Commission. He is a former assistant police chief for the Duncanville Police Department, and he served very well on the commission. And so I am wanting to reappoint him, and by civil service requirement, civil service law, it does require the governing body to ratify that appointment. Those are all of the items on the agenda.
Okay, any discussion by anybody on any agenda item?
Should we discuss the appointments?
We
So
can.
So we don't have to do
We
it
can,
for the
yep.
I support putting Mrs. Cam on the multicultural board, simply because she was on the multicultural committee since the conception of it, and she's also the I don't know, the president, the head of the International Museum of Culture.
You're talking about Mary Faith, not Kay, not Kay.
Yeah, Mary Faith.
Okay, Mary Faith, okay. Anybody else?
Then there's the one, I'm sorry, I don't have my. I think there's two, yes.
There's two on the,
Yeah.
there's two for the zoning.
So for the zoning, one of them didn't have it checked off, one of them wasn't interested in it, so I thought that was odd that she was listed as a candidate on her application, she didn't have it checked off.
I think what we've done is bring to you all of those that did not receive an appointment.
Tyler Savage, she didn't have it checked off.
And the other one, the other one
The other one did, yeah.
And we have two, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
So I support Carolyn Thompson because she actually indicated interest in it and for position.
I concur.
That's no problem.
Carolyn Thompson, she just checked planning and zoning. I guess that's closer. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, anybody else? We can do this as one motion, can't we, Bob?
Yes, as long as we delineate what person's going to what board.
Vote, yeah, okay. One of you be prepared to make the motion.
She's writing it down.
Looks like.
Does that mean something, Dennis?
Yeah, she's making a grocery list.
Yeah. You got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, everybody sit on that. Okay, anybody else want to talk about any of the agenda? Well, seeing none, that will close that out. Our next order of business will be to discuss, it's 2A, and that's to discuss proposed vacant building ordinance. So, this time, we will call,
Mayor and members of council, thank you. This is, we're bringing in front of you the proposed vacant building ordinance. Just to recap, at your September 5th council meeting, we discussed the causes and strategies for vacant buildings, commercial vacant buildings. And one of the, obviously showed you what we had contained within our current vacant building ordinance, which listed about 5 standards of care. Council felt at that time that was not enough, considering the challenges that we have. We showed a sample ordinance from the city of San Antonio, and council directed staff to use many of the provisions within the City of San Antonio Vacant Buildings Ordinance to rewrite our ordinance. Last week, we briefed the Duncanville Community Economic Development Corporation. We just showed the PowerPoint presentation on the key points that were brought up. And then obviously tonight, we're briefing the council on the vacant building ordinance. If pending your input and other suggestions, we can try to have this ready for you at your November 7th meeting with an information campaign and then enforcement beginning January 1. So what are the key features? Regulating commercial industrial vacant structure properties only. As you may recall, in the City of San Antonio ordinance, they included single-family homes, but since the focus was on commercial properties, that provision was left out. So it does not regulate the single or multifamily structures, churches and their ancillary buildings, and then partially vacant shopping centers, unless those centers are 100% vacant. As far as determining the vacancies, staff will monitor through utility billing, through city inspections, whether it's police, fire, code enforcement, building officials, any kind of reports from the public. As you, in the ordinance, we have to show or see that the vacant building is at least 30 days vacant before it. Then we send them a notice to say that they must register as a vacant building with the City of Duncanville. Yes, ma'am.
Are you taking questions now?
I would love it, yes. I figured this would probably be the point.
Okay, so I can see why you would leave out single and multifamily.
Yes, ma'am.
Because those are addressed in our current code, and we are anticipating another ordinance that will cover some homes. But churches, I don't see why you're excluding them, because they won't be covered. So you'll have commercial buildings covered, have a like apartments covered, and you'll have single home dwellings covered, but you won't ever have places of worship covered. And so I think that's an issue, because we don't, every building, every structure should be covered by an ordinance.
Well, the reason we don't, council member, is because we are leaving, because it's a commercial industrial. So one of the codicils in here in the ordinance would be that they would be required to list it in MLS and also for sale or for lease. And let me just fast forward real quick to a picture of the building. So this building is at the church. It's located at Camp Wisdom and Duncanville. And it's the church. There's 2 buildings. There's actually 3 buildings total. This is also part of that property, but it's vacant. So the question becomes, so one of the provisions in here would be that they would be required to file a trespass warrant, that they would have to then market the property. And the question becomes, if they're just wanting to leave this vacant, and our ordinance is kind of pushing the fact that we want them to market it or lease it or what have you, would be in conflict with some of the provisions. So we would have to make we could have a rewrite or something that can pull that out.
What you mean, what's the zoning on this, Paul, based on?
I have to look at the map.
Well, it's all right if you don't know what, to your point, a lot of times churches are in residential neighborhoods.
Yeah, I think it is.
So if it's commercially zoned, then it would be no different.
That is not.
That's not in the residential
That's not
area.
residential.
Isn't that the Jehovah's Witnesses?
No, that's right across from the
Kroger.
Kroger, it's right across from Kroger.
So maybe if it's
Yes.
a church, it doesn't matter what the underlying use was, if it's a vacant building in the commercial zone, maybe we need to address
Used to
it.
be a beauty center, I
Well, you
think,
have,
back in the day.
you could have a church occupy a traditional commercial building, and I wouldn't want to take that out of play just because the church occupied that building at one time. So if it's maybe commercially zoned property, whether it was a church or not, I think we're okay. I think what Paul was trying to address is we didn't want to get involved in government regulation and church activities, and so I didn't want to get in the middle of churches closed for a brief time. It may change pastors or something, so it's closed, it's open, and I want to get into regulating churches. But maybe what we really need to look at is if it's commercially zoned property, whether it was a church or not, it's vacant, because you could lease that out to anybody for a commercial business as long as it was zoned for that. So we can make that change.
My interest is safety.
Right.
That's, at this point, we're interested in keeping the vagrants out, fire hazards.
This building has plywood, which is not allowed, so that would be one of the things, especially the standards of care that we have listed in our new ordinance. That'd be plexiglass, so that'd be some kind of, transparent glass. It could secure, they've got holes and penetrations in there that would be covered under the standards of care within this ordinance, so, that's the reason it was left out originally.
And
So your input's-
I would support that we exclude places of worship for like criminal trespasses that's in here and those sorts of things.
Okay.
But when it comes to the safety of the structure, I think we need to press forward with that.
Okay.
We can make that change.
What, I don't understand. Exclude it for trespassing?
No, I make the change to take, if it's commercial, and it's a commercially zoned property, we're gonna treat them all alike. If it's vacant, it's vacant, whether a church owns the land or not.
So
And then we'll look at what Ms. Thomas has brought up as well. So we'll address that.
What we were, on the criminal trespass, where we're talking on that one is because there's other church buildings that are in use on that same property. They can't give a criminal trespass authorization because people are going to be coming to the churches anyway. And that was, but that was, we'll look at that. We'll figure out what we're hearing is y'all want to include them to the extent we can, recognizing that there's some other issues there with those, but we'll work with Bob on how to do that.
Yes, sir.
On the bullet point, the partially vacant shopping centers, unless those are, I don't know if we have any that's 100% vacant, so that wording is gonna really still leave it as status quo, because, all of them, I think, have at least one somebody in them, but the majority of it it's been sitting empty for years. So that wording is going to, forget about all the other stuff we're adding to this as opposed to what we had. That wording is really gonna just still keep us crippled and held hostage by these owners. So that's not really, in my opinion, I don't think that's really moving us forward to help anybody or to help us alleviate the number of buildings that are vacant. Having that phrase, less those centers are 100% vacant. I don't have a problem with, I think it's the 100% issue that I have an issue with.
Is there anything you can do about
Well, yes, and what we try to do is address freestanding buildings first.
Right.
And then we were gonna move on to the shopping centers, and I understand that that's a problem. Would it be better if it says it's less than 50% occupied, or is there a percentage?
Well, saying 100%, I don't think there's a shopping center strip mall that is 100% vacant in the city. So that nulls and voids everything.
Yeah, it meant to cover everything under one roof, so let me show a couple of the pictures here. So like, for example, where the Wheatland Plaza, you've got the main anchor that is vacant, but you've got the other shops that are still full.
Right.
So the issue we were coming up with, council member, was, okay, again, going back to the trespass warrant or some of the standards of care, if it's not 100%, we would be making them register under this program. So every shopping center would have to register under this program unless we came up with a percentage of vacant space.
The guy that owns the corner building that's vacant, he still owns the whole thing, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, unless I'm wrong, having the one, and this one right here as well, unless removing the 100%, we're right back where we started from.
Well, there's issues, what the ordinances always try to address is buildings where the property itself is vacant versus a portion of the property is vacant. I don't disagree with, you're exactly right, an empty shopping center, whether it's 50% or 75%, is still kind of an issue for us.
Absolutely.
So, but I think the standards for that regulation are different than the standards for this because of how you do space and how you rent that space.
And
It needs to be addressed.
Every shopping center too is, I don't think there's any that are 100% full on the other side too. So every shopping center is probably, and they're going to always have turnover of tenants coming and going. So it's reasonable that if we go with anything less than 100% full, it's going to encompass every shopping center all the time. And then I think then we're gonna get into those issues again with criminal trespass and stuff like that. It makes it a little harder to administer it or.
It's more labor intensive.
And I hear that, but 100% will not, we're not gonna want to take a step in.
Is there a percentage, 50%?
What about 50?
If it's more than 50% vacant, then they fall under this category?
Okay, well then how will the criminal trespass that you just mentioned, how will that come into play?
I think we'd almost have to carve that out because again,
Waive it or something.
yeah, because they also have the flexibility of moving space and suites around it, they're moving walls, and there's gonna be that flexibility too. That's what makes it tough. The same thing with the floor plan for the first responders, because like just a single structure would be easy for us to provide that floor plan, but if there's gonna be that flexibility in their space and they have certain suites, but then they come back and lease it out and combine two
Right.
spaces, then we're gonna be right back into the issue of trying to come up with the issue of the floor plan.
What do other cities do?
Well, I think if it's an issue, so I think we've got kind of two issues that are part of this ordinance. One is the issue of the vacant space, but it's also the issue of the code enforcement and adding more restrictions on there that can make it easy, I mean, give us more teeth. So, for example, we look at.
I like more teeth.
I figure, well, let me take Shaneyville, for example. So, you know, we had our current ordinance that, you know, again, required that they had to secure it, that they had to take care of the property. In this ordinance, with the additional added standards of care, we start talking about any kind of penetration to the building, weatherproofing, roof. I mean, we have some other things that we can basically say, look, number one, you need to get this fixed. And then we have to then say, this is an approved fix. I mean, they can't say, well, we took care of it and met your minimum standards. You have to meet the minimum standards of this vacant building program. And then we have to be the ones that say, yes, you made the repair and it's acceptable of us. But what was kind of a challenge for us is that this was really for the San Antonio one, it was geared, as you might remember, you know, central business districts, historic districts, and then areas had, but they were looking at those single structures with one roof, and that's what the challenge we were running into with the shopping centers of the you know, variable spaces. They might be at 90%, you know, 1 month, or 50% the next month. It would be hard for us to keep up with that vacant space. The other thing too, according to this, it had to be vacant for 30 days, and so we'd have to be monitoring those vacancies for each of those shopping centers. That doesn't mean that we still, if there's code enforcement concerns with shopping centers, that we can't still address those with the shopping centers. But even if we had this, you're just going to be requiring the shopping center to register, but that may or may not prod them to fill up that space
Right,
any
right.
faster. That's an unfortunate part.
Right.
But I think from the standpoint too of trying to fill the space, in a shopping center, you're going to have a property manager and broker, and they're more than likely, as we saw in those pictures, there are for lease signs in those windows. So they are actively marketing those spaces, which is what we want them to do. So I think, again, going back to what Paul's saying, I think we have, for the shopping centers, we already have some things in code, property maintenance code, that we can address them from the building standpoint. From just the economic development, the market, pure marketing standpoint, I think they're already going to do what we want them to do in trying to actively market it. It's those single structure properties that we're concerned about that someone may not be actively trying to market it, they're just sitting on it.
I think we may then need a bullet to separate them. One for those single properties, and then another one for those small stuff. You go back to that picture.
Okay.
Next one.
Okay.
How long is that board going to be there, or how long has it been there with that broken out glass?
And that is in our code. How long?
And that is it, yeah. And that doesn't mean that we.
Yeah, I'm just an observation.
But I
I'm just
agree
saying.
with you, and I think it
Just saying.
needs to be stronger.
So for, you know, them
They
sticking
have
a
been,
sign,
yeah.
I mean, you know, I do marketing every day. Them sticking a sign in the window is not them actively marketing to fill it. That's, I mean.
And we don't want that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about blight. That looks like blight.
So, I mean, if we need to do a bullet for the single structures, like I call it a TP that's there on Main, and then another bullet that has less than 100% for
The standards of care.
for these, because those shopping centers, none of them are 100%. So if we leave that as it is, we've done nothing. We've done nothing to move forward. So we need to have something less than 100%. And I mean, I'm okay with 50, but this is a group decision, but I just don't believe we can leave it at 100%.
Okay, well, we've got shopping centers. What about like the building that I'm in that has 5 tenants?
Okay.
So if one person moves out,
Well, and I think, and I totally understand that, but the
well, why is
mentality.
it different? It's just,
Because you don't even see that in a building if it's one office that's empty. And what we're talking
I
about,
understand what you're talking about, but
But it would be
It's
treated,
what?
It has to still be treated.
it's still got to be treated the same way.
a building has to be treated the same way as a strip mall?
Well, it depends what the definition is. That's an office building, that's a retail facility, so there's a difference.
So
I
it
mean,
doesn't have to be treated the same way.
Well, it had to be broken out. 'Cause I think this-
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we need to put more bullets
It's not the fact that it's vacant, it's the fact that it's vacant, you can see it, and it's exposure, so we can, I think they need to be treated differently
Right.
than, because these traditionally are big box ordinances
Right.
where you have major, like a Walmart or a Minyards or something,
Yeah.
that's vacant, they're hard to transition, no one wants to take space for 40,000 square feet or whatever. So we can have a different standard for shopping centers. But what I would encourage you to do is go ahead and pass this, we'll work on that and add it to it. But I think.
Well, this is for discussion only tonight. It's
Right,
not-
right, I understand. But I don't want to rush to do something and.
Well, I mean, I don't either. So we don't want to rush. We can.
We can handle the big boxes and then bring you back an amendment to handle the shopping centers, which was our intent when we were working on this, is to look at those as well.
Well, our major big box has been taken over when Walmart left. It's Winco.
Yeah, now.
So, yeah, and it's out there. What we found is
But there's a
that
limited, I'm going to say limited tenants that are out there that can absorb
That
that
will
much
do that,
space. And
right.
you cannot divide those up so they're harder to get people in.
right. but
Nobody
what we
wanted that
found-
Walmart store, so they tore it down to go to a new building.
What we
I'm
found
gonna let you
was
finish.
that they were owned out of state and they were sitting on them and writing them off.
Well, sometimes they're getting rent. In other words, if I own the building and I rent it to Walmart and Walmart is still having to pay me rent although they've moved,
Yeah.
I have no incentive to do anything. I'm just sticking the money in my
And
pocket.
that's
I don't need to
exactly
improve
what
the
happened.
Property, I just let it set and deteriorate and.
That lease ended in January, and they had a deal cut within about March or April.
So that's why we need to change. That's why we need to change it.
Same
To
thing with small
incentivize them to do something.
But in that case, would that be considered vacant if they still have a lease? In that, what's,
No, not until the lease is up.
Well, it's unoccupied.
It's unoccupied.
Yeah, it would fall under this.
Yeah, it's unoccupied.
But if it's unoccupied and they're still paying on it,
We don't care. You need to maintain it appropriately so
Right.
it's not a blight.
Right.
And that's what they did, Walmart did, because they stole the air conditioning units off of them twice, and they had to come up there and replace them twice,
Can
and
we
they weren't
quote
even
you on
using the
that?
building. Beg your pardon?
can we quote you on that? Walmart stole the air.
No, I said they stole the air conditioning.
Walmart.
Oh, you mean
Whoever-
someone else did, not
Yes,
Walmart?
yes,
Oh,
it did sound like Walmart.
I know, I'm going.
No, Walmart
I
had to
think
pay to have
I
it
said
replaced.
that. Someone else stole it from Walmart.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So for clarification, sake, real quick, Councilmember, is it the issue of
Go
just
back.
the-
I think it's one more slide back.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it the issue of just the standards of care for the shopping centers that's the main concern, like with even on the partially vacant?
Yes, because from what I've been told and what I'm learning is it's the care, upkeep,
Okay.
whatever, that's hindering economic development from getting people to come and occupy. So we need to do something to incentivize them
Okay.
that they are either going to
Maintain
maintain it, make it better, something. so
it. Make it
that-
look appealing. so
Exactly, so
someone-
that more, we can attract people to come into it.
And you said if it's more than 50% vacant, and we
I think-
try to fit that in and figure out how it would fit in here with, there might be some exceptions, but we'll figure out how to put.
Yeah, I mean, the
100%.
that last
Yeah.
bullet just
You
keeps
want,
us,
we want to raise the bar.
yeah, that keeps us where we are, that
Okay.
last bullet.
Yeah, so 50% was what you were saying.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I said.
All right, well, we'll work on that.
It's not just economic development. If someone was considering moving here, buying a home, and you drove through here and saw this empty stuff and say, ooh, I don't want to be here. it's empty.
Well, and I think that's another good reason to say 50% or more, because say the Tom Thumb Shopping Center, it has a tenant, probably vacancy, but you wouldn't know it by driving by it. It looks like it's,
Right.
pretty full.
Right.
That's the lucky one.
Right.
What you don't want is one that's real vacant, so I think 50% is a good limit
Right.
as well.
And we can always
I
adjust.
agree with that.
Okay.
But
Do we know where the church doesn't use that building?
No, we just, as we were kind of doing a quick drive-by, we saw that, again, it's just a picture, but for us, it highlighted the fact that there are 3 structures on that property, and that's the only one that's boarded up and vacant.
Does anybody talk to him about boarding it up?
I don't know, we need to follow through, we need to follow up with why they've got the plywood, because they do have some penetrations in there and so forth, so it's not completely, it's secured from what we can tell, but not,
We
maybe there's
changed,
some violations.
when we changed that ordinance is when Burger King shut
Yeah,
their doors there on
that's
Cedar
right.
Ridge, and they put boards in their windows. It was like, oh, no, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna do something with that.
We have boards here, but it's just a temporary, just to get it secured, but ultimately the goal would be to push them to a kind of a plexiglass, a strong plexiglass, if they can't keep the glass from being broken and so forth. So, and just real quick recap, so they would be provided, they would have to provide us contact information, proof of liability insurance for the property, minimal marketing, submission of a criminal trespass warrant, floor plan for first responders. One of the important things for us would be if there's a change of ownership, we want to know what that is, and they would be required to provide that to us. And of course, the enhanced standards of care. One of the things on the submission for the registration fee, we would do that by the fee schedule, so we would not include it in the ordinance. So we would have to keep them in the ordinance if you wanted to adjust the fee schedule. And that's more input from the council. If again, modeling after San Antonio, they had a $750 annual fee with an inspection fee of 1 cent per square foot. Is that, if that's amenable still, or?
Yeah.
to me, it is.
Okay, and then obviously failure to register would be a Class C misdemeanor.
Can we
Again-
go back?
Yes, sir.
When they, the third bullet, the minimum market requirements include, where do they list the properties?
So they can put it on like a MLS or whatever commercial property listing service. It has to be listed somewhere out there that it is for lease for sale, and then some stuff.
And do we have a mechanism in place where we can, if it is listed, if the property is listed?
We can do that. We can check those properties.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the annual fee is $750, but if you don't register, it's gonna cost you $500.
But it is a misdemeanor, so you got
Yeah,
And you gotta pay the fee too.
well,
Yeah.
And I see where you're
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. That's what
But you don't have to pay the fee unless you register. You don't register.
Unfortunately,
It's
the state
$500.
law caps are,
Yeah, I know.
now, we might try it up to $2,000, claiming it's safe health
Let's try.
welfare
Well,
regulation.
I mean,
is
so
it per day?
they hurt us,
Yeah, it's
so
per
we hurt
day.
them.
Yeah.
Every day is a separate violation.
Yeah,
You're-
so depending on the judge, you may get $1,000 fine or something.
Yeah, if it's,
Oh.
where the ticket's written that you were bank, it'd be $500 a day.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't do that to our property owners unless, of course, we have a chronic violator, and when you become a chronic violator, then you take a more stern approach with, as does the judge, if you're a chronic violator, so. It could be pretty pricey if you decided you didn't want to register.
And I do think that needs to be spelled out. Minimal marketing requirements include listing the property. I think you
Yeah,
can
it's-
spell
It's
it
in there.
out.
Yes, ma'am.
It's in there.
Okay, because you can list it with your church newspaper.
I'm on a bulletin board.
A question for you, Bob, though, on the class of misdemeanor. I mean, if we have a property owner that we can't locate and we're issuing citations, what's the reality then of getting those fines collected?
It's
Seizure.
going to be difficult, because
Seizure.
now we can make it a civil fine, and I could, instead of making it a criminal fine, make it a civil violation, and assess the fine, have an appeal to the municipal court judge, and make it a lien on the property.
Yeah, seizure.
But that's not seizing, they're just putting the lien on it. So if you want to explain,
Well, putting the lien on there, you have to foreclose it,
you have to foreclose.
and if it, and potentially, we could take a position ahead of the bank. So if you're financed or the bank with a lien, if we can find out who the lenders are, then we'll notify the lender as well. Part of this is getting them on board as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think-
It's their collateral that's
And I
deteriorating.
just want y'all to realize, that, you know, I understand that some of these distressed properties have shady owners, shady lenders, and it's hard for us to figure out
Yeah, it's difficult.
who's in there, so.
But it disappears if they declare bankruptcy.
A civil fine would, a criminal fine would not. And you can do both. There can be a civil fine as well as a criminal fine.
You can't do that anymore.
Can't do that anymore.
So we'll bring you both and let you choose.
Okay, anybody else?
Real quick, just that you can see the additional standards of care compared to what the current ordinance is suggesting. So we've obviously added more teeth, sticks, if you will. And then, again, promoting adherence to the standards of care. We do allow for fee waiver, kind of going back to what has been brought up as far as the incentives are concerned. These are valid for only 12 months, but so if the property was devastated by a flood or fire, if the property owner who is deceased are no longer competent, you know, if there's a circumstance where there's that kind of extenuating issue, then that we could provide a waiver. Again, these are just valid for 1 month, so it's not a perpetual waiver. Where the property owners obtain a building permit, and we know that they're progressing to fix the property, occupy it. Again, another incentive that we could waive the fee. And then the owner of a property has maintained the property to the standards of care that's required in the article. We could also provide that too, as long as they're taking care of property and we agree with that maintenance.
Don't you think in 12 months, though, that's a long time for somebody, if they've had a pipe burst or even a fire? I mean, you need to remove it and move on.
Well, the 12-month is, well, so that I understand the question, the 12-month is just the waiver of the fee itself.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's just for the
that means
12, yeah, so they just we'll just waive the fee for the 12 months.
They still
But-
have to do something.
Yes, if we waived it 1 year and it came back and there was disrepair or they weren't maintaining it, they would then be required to pay the fee and say, well, we weren't maintaining it, so
And
congratulations.
don't forget, we still have substandard building ordinance.
We do, yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is in addition to that. So if there was a fire, catastrophic thing that damaged the building beyond repair, we would address that with substandard building ordinance, not just this. So there's other things that are in play that this is just an additional tool where the building becomes unsightly or insecure or not appropriately maintained that doesn't make it substandard. Right now, we don't have enough tools in our toolbox, and so we need to add this to that.
Okay.
That was it. We saw the pictures.
Okay, thank you
Appreciate
very
the
much.
input.
That concludes item 2A. The next part will be an executive session, which is listed under item 1. City Council shall convene into a closed executive session pursuant to section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code. Deliberations about real property, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, to wit, real property generally located west of State Highway 67, south of I-20, east of Cedar Ridge Road, and north of Wheatland Road. So we will recess our work session at 6:43. As soon as you read, the room's cleared.
Yeah.
Johnette? Johnette? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 7:12, and we'll call the city council to order. Our first order of business tonight will be our invocation led by First Baptist Church, Duncanville, Pastor Robert Castillo. Following that, we will have our pledge of allegiance to the flag. So at this time, will you please stand?
Would you join me in prayer? Father, we come to you at this time and ask your guidance, alignment, and blessing upon this time. And Father, we place our major and the council in your hands and all this agenda before you. And that you will guide everything and everything be that which is going to edify this city and going to build your kingdom. Thank you for this honor and thank you for this time. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge the allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Well, my report tonight concerns two events that happened last week and one that's going to happen this Saturday. We had a full day last Saturday. We had the 5K 1 mile run. It was headquartered at Ben Franklin. We had a very successful day. A lot of people. We had just a wonderful day with a wonderful race, and we were all happy to see all of the people participating in that. And then following that, starting in the right after that, it started on Friday night, was the Smoke and Blues barbecue. And for those of you who attended that, I think that you were pleasantly surprised by the quality of the bands that they had playing and by the barbecue event and everything that went along with it. It was a great Saturday for Duncanville. This coming Saturday, we have our monthly festivities up on Main Street with our Duncan Switch event. And so we would invite all of you to be out there. We'll have a lot of vendors lined up, a lot of food vendors as well as people selling merchandise. And it's a time that where the community can really get together and shop and meet each other and have a great time. So I would encourage you this Saturday to be up on Main Street. The hours are from 8 to 2. So that's another good time to be had by all. Council member reports. The manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I would like to also just kind of carry what the mayor was talking about with the events this past Saturday, and I want to especially thank the staff who worked really hard with Ben Franklin and also with the Lions Club on the Barbecue and Blues Festival. And that was a great team effort from a number of our departments, including Parks and Recreation staff and Streets Department, Police Department, and Fire Department, all working together with those organizers to put on a great event. And so I just want to give my thanks to our staff for that hard work on Saturday. It made it especially challenging with two events going on and moving to both, but they were both very successful, as the mayor said. Secondly, I just wanted to mention as well that we are having some problems with our cable provider tonight, Charter Spectrum. So that's why we do not have the other television on with the cable feed. And so if anyone is watching at home, they may experience some difficulties. We've been having intermittent issues with them, and they are going to be out tomorrow to look into it. But I apologize for those problems. Thank you.
I have one proclamation to deliver tonight, and it's regarding the National Community Planning Month, and I would ask that our city planner, Chastity Allen Benson, and our Public Works Director, Greg Ramey, come up and receive this. proclamation reads, whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places, and whereas community planning and plans can help manage the change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live, and whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices and determining the future of their community, and whereas the full benefits of planning requires public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation, and whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories, and whereas the American Planning Association and its professional institute, the American Institute of Certified Planners, endorse National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight the contributions sound planning and plan implementation made to the quality of our settlements and environments. And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of the Planning Commission and other city planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the city of Duncanville. And whereas we recognize that many valuable contributions made by professional, community, and regional planners of the city of Duncanville, and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now, therefore, I, David L. Green, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, do hereby call upon citizens of Duncanville and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the month of October 2017 as National Community Planning Month, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating the planning and zoning development employees of the city of Duncanville, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to our community, and in so doing have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the health, safety, and welfare of all of the citizens.
Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens of Duncanville, I just want to take this opportunity to brag on Chastity. As you know, from a few weeks ago, we did the comprehensive plan approval, and again, she was instrumental to the success of that. And again, I know, again, tonight we are presenting a special use permit, but to highlight that is, Chastity is very integral in working with the citizens and folks that want to come to Duncanville and set up their shop, set up their businesses, and she meets with them. She really has ownership of our pre-development working group to help get these folks situated and help them be successful here in Duncanville. And again, I just wanted to thank Chastity for all her hard work to bring businesses here and then help make Duncanville great.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for the proclamation. I've been a city planner for about 15 years now. It goes by really fast. But I've been with the city of Duncanville 2 years last week. And so we're excited for the work that we've done so far, and there's lots more to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Next segment of our program is item number 3, which is our citizens' input. I have several cards tonight, so I would remind you that you have 2 minutes to speak. And as I call your name out, will you please come forward to the rostrum and give your name and address for the records. Alex Wheeler.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. Mr. Schwartz, Mr. Huckman, Ms. Jones, who I do know, and other council members for giving me and others who will come after me these 2 minutes. I have a complaint to voice. Let me start out by saying that I live and reside at 1531 Natalie Lane, where my wife Patsy and I have lived for the past 2 years. However, we've been a permanent resident here in the city of Duncanville for the past 23 years. Prior to that, we lived over on Thistle Green. And during the past 2 years, at the location where we do now live, we have experienced a number of negative and consistent negative parking and traffic inefficiencies, I guess I should say. It has come to the point to where several cars at any time, which appears to be belonging to the same person, not necessarily a legal owner of the residence that resides at, I believe, 1523 Natalie, a number of cars that are there. And while we know that all of our streets are public, I don't think we want our streets to be used as a parking lot or a parking garage, nor a repair garage at times. And it seems like that is what has happened, to the point to where it has blocked off ramps that would render a disabled person the inability to come out and go up that ramp, to the point to where visitors would not be able to depart, to the point to where emergency vehicles would be unable to come in and attend to any emergencies, be that a fire, be that a health reason. Trailers that may be from a legal standpoint, from a legal standpoint, sticking out in the street. We're dealing with this problem. We're asking for help.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Barbara Owens.
Good evening to everyone. I'm the neighbor that's with him. My name is Barbara Owens. I'm at 1526 Natalie Lane. My husband and I have been there for about going on 3 years now. When I first moved in, the person across the street that lives at 1523 told me, it's no need of you going downtown and saying anything to Duncanville because they're not going to do anything to us. That my husband is well versed on the law and they will not do anything. We've had them in court and they will not do anything to us. So since my husband is sick, I've kind of laid back and not done much. But it's gotten worse. I have pictures, and I don't know if you're able to look at them, but I'm embarrassed to have someone at my house. I had a lady to come out the other day to try to help me do a few things, and she said, my God, what is this? I'm embarrassed. No one should have to live like this. When we first moved in, my daughter came running. She said, Mama, somebody has a shotgun. And I went to the window, and somebody was going. And we come to find out that it was him with a BB gun shooting squirrels. Scared my daughter to death and me too. But this is what we have to deal with in this neighborhood. I had a furniture delivery 2 weeks ago. That truck could not get into the front of my house. He had to come to the back to deliver. They throw it in our face every day. And nobody should have to live like this. My whole purpose for moving here was to have a garage on the back. And most of us, we want to park on the back. But they have to park on the front because he'll bring even more cars in. It's 6, 7 every day. Trucks with trailer, trash on the back. And that's what we have to deal with. So I'm asking for your help because I don't know nothing else to do. I keep my husband away. He's a disabled veteran. I have to keep him away because he'll be done try to walk out there and confront him, and I don't want that. So I keep him away. But nobody should have to live like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I show? Will you look at the picture? I got him dated and everything.
Louise Walker.
Good evening, everyone. I am the neighbor of Alex and Barbara. My name is Lanice Walker. I reside at 1527 Natalie Lane. I am actually next door to the person that they're complaining about, and it's very much an eyesore. Been living there over a little bit over a year, probably about 18 months. We built our house on the lot next to them. So I think that he's used to having that empty lot in that space. Well, I have to park my car on my property line to keep him from easing over and parking. And because I live next door to him, I have to see all the cars that are in his backyard parked on the grass, all of the cars parked in front of his house with the trash on the back. He's outside in front of his house working on the cars, have them on jacks days at a time, different things like that. So it's very difficult, and of course when I have company or people over, it's very embarrassing. Well, I can't really find your house. Well, look for the house next to the house with all the cars. Oh, I see your house, that kind of thing. It's very embarrassing, and of course when I have guests, there's nowhere for them to park because our cul-de-sac is being overtaken by all those cars. So I'll keep it short, but that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dario Crescendo.
Good evening, council member. So my name is Dario Crosetto, 900 Highway de Soto, and I am native of Monastero Risavigliano. I am the founder of the Sister City with Duncanville. The previous Sister City committee that I organized was to promote peace through mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding through the dialogue. We should keep in mind that the dialogue and communication is the basic of the Sister City and the Sister City Commission. It is the reason for its existence, which is different from the reason of the existence of a city council, which is there because there is a city with 40,000 people, a budget of approximately $100 million per year, and need to administer this budget to repair roads, to take care of all the activities for the citizen. If the 40,000 people would not be there, there will not be reason to have a city council, likewise if there will not be a budget. The reason for a sister city to exist is allowing and promoting the dialogue, not placing the limit of 2 minutes at the Sister City Commission, not this one, okay, the Sister City Commission meeting, and making difficult to attend because the announcement of the past meeting on October 10 was posted the day after the meeting, and it was anticipated from the regular meeting of October 12. So because the Sister City is based on the dialogue and communication, I would suggest to have this meeting, the commission, instead of the library, at the briefing room, to make the meeting available to the public as it is for this meeting, or not tonight because you said that the video recording is not working, but by making available to the citizen, to the public, because it is the dialogue. That is the basic of the Sister City. If we suppress the dialogue, then there is no reason to have the Sister City. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Stewart.
Good evening. My name is Jason Stewart. I am the store manager for Metro PCS, located here in Duncanville. The address is 105 South Cedar Ridge. I'm here tonight basically appealing that you all would consider amending or adjusting in some way the opportunity for outdoor marketing. That is a huge part of our business, particularly in in our lean sales months, like we're going through right now, we have over 500 locations as a company here in the Dallas metro area, and outdoor marketing is a big part of those locations. Those stores that are allowed, depending on the city and the zoning that they're in, are allowed to actually do outdoor marketing such as wind flags, sign spinning. They're also allowed to have air dancers out. But here in Duncanville, of course, as you guys know, we are only allowed to have a banner up, and that banner can only be up 3 months per year. For us, that's hard. We depend very heavily upon the drive-by traffic that happens on Cedar Ridge, which is one of the reasons why we chose that location over 5 years ago. We love it here in Duncanville. We've got a great clientele here, but our sales have dipped considerably over the last 3 years, and I think in large part due to the restrictions that are in place. So my appeal to you all tonight is that you would please consider amending in some way the policy that's in place so that we would be allowed to have to get our share of the business here. We love the city of Duncanville. It's been very good to us. But again, we want to get back to where we were before in terms of sales production. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, sir. Arthur Jackson.
How you doing, Mr. Mayor? My name is Arthur Jackson. I live at 1211 Casa Grande Place, and we've just been living here for a little bit over 4 months, close to 4 months. And when you come in and turn off a Casa Grande Circle, the house there on your right, what I'm talking about, speaking about child endangerment. Either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, maybe 1 or 2 days out of the week, their front door faces Casa Grande Circle, but their back faces Casa Grande Place. They're on the street drinking, not paying attention. They have 3 or 4 or 5 kids running around and running into the street. And we can't be responsible. They're not responsible for their children, what they're doing, their activity. And so they can't, so when you're driving down the street, you got to be aware of the child. And plus you got to be aware of them too, because they're not paying attention to anything. We've only been there 4 months, and we done had 3 incidents with children running into the street. And it's every night that they're out there drinking. It's about 5 to 6 cars, and our neighbor has complained that she has came down here and complained, but we came down I came down tonight because that's wrong. Someone is going to get hurt, and I'm asking that your city council and have someone patrol the area at least once or twice a week, or maybe twice on the weekend, to have this to stop, because that is becoming a real danger. It's becoming a real problem, and it needs to be addressed.
What's your address again?
Excuse me?
What's your address?
1211 Casa Grande Place. And I would like to know who my city council in that area. Okay, nice meeting you, Mr. Dennis Schwartz. Okay, and it's becoming it's a real problem. It's a real problem, and I would like for someone to patrol the area and take a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Because these are not scheduled on the agenda, the council cannot speak to any of the issues. But if any of you would like to speak to staff after the meeting, we can arrange that. Also, City Manager, I believe you wanted to say something.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to address a couple of the comments that were made. First, the residents on Natalie Lane, that cul-de-sac. I understand your frustration. I feel your frustration. I know I've talked with Mr. Walker before on this a number of times. This has been an ongoing issue for years, and I think the one who mentioned that the owner there knows the law, I think is correct. He knows exactly what he can get away with, and we have been trying to work within that and trying to whenever he steps outside of that. I can tell you that police and code have been working hard on that. We're working with the city attorney on some things as well. But I also want to mention that the city council is going on a tour tomorrow evening, a driving tour of the city, and one of the things that we're looking at is parking issues throughout the city. The next council meeting, we're planning to have a briefing session and discussion with the council on parking regulations, and Natalie Lane has been one of the areas that I have been concerned about, of how we can make that an easier find an easier solution than what it is right now to fix that problem. So I would encourage you to try to come to the next council meeting as well and hear those comments and discussion. As far as the sister city agendas, I want to mention that Mr. Crosetto said that the agenda was posted the day after the meeting. It was not. The meeting was October 10th, and it was posted on September 29th on the website, and I showed that to him that it was uploaded on the 29th and published on the 29th. We did have some problems with our website dropping some agendas, and that was discovered that that was the case. But the information that I provided showed that it had been uploaded, and as well as it had been posted on the official bulletin boards well in advance of that meeting. Mr. Jackson on Casa Grande Circle, the police chief is here, and we've made a note of that address as well, so I would encourage you to talk with him, and we'll certainly take a look at those issues. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our the cards that I have for our citizens input segment. Item number 3, we will go right into the consent items, which are items number 4, and they're A through G, and I will ask the city secretary at this time if she will please read the captions.
Item 4A, consider the minutes for the September 19, 2017 City Council regular meeting. 4B, consider a resolution authorizing the procurement of light-emitting diode LED illuminated street name signs and components from Consolidated Traffic Controls, Inc. for the unit price awarded through HGAC by cooperative contract, PE-05-17, and the expenditure amount of $91,997. 4C, consider a resolution authorizing the procurement of traffic signal control cabinets through Paradigm Traffic Systems, Inc. for the unit prices awarded through By Board Cooperative Purchasing Contract number 524-17 and the expenditure amount of $75,000. 4D, consider a resolution authorizing the procurement of non-visual accessible pedestrian traffic control, enforcement, and signal preemption equipment from Consolidated Traffic Controls, Inc. for the unit prices awarded through HGAC by cooperative contract number PE-05-17 and the expenditure amount of $74,529. 4E, consider a resolution approving the terms and conditions of professional engineering service agreements for sanitary sewer evaluation surveys of Basin WC and Basin EB with Burgess and Nyepel, Inc. for a total cost not to exceed $73,785.60. 4F, consider a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, authorizing the payment to Conduit Government Systems, LLC, formerly Xerox Government Systems, LLC, for software support and maintenance from October 2016 to September 2017 in the amount of $57,552.04. 4G, consider a resolution authorizing the renewal of agreement number 13-20, official newspaper designation with Focus Daily News, in the unit amounts bid with an estimated annual expenditure of $35,000.
Council, you've heard the captions read on items A through G. The chair will entertain a motion at this time.
I move that we approve the items as read.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? There would be none on consent items. Please vote. Okay, thank you. Going into item number 5, the first item is item number A. It is to conduct a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending the local retail LR2 zoning to allow a specific use permit for a cosmetology school and salon on Block G, Duncanville Industrial District 6th installment, more commonly known as 928 South Cedar Ridge Road.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chastity Allen Benson, City Planner. The request before you tonight is a specific use permit for a cosmetology school and a salon at 928 South Cedar Ridge. The applicant is seeking approval to allow for the salon that's currently occupying that space to add a cosmetology school, which is not a permitted use under the local retail 2 zoning district, does require then the SUP. The applicant has occupied that space since August of this year. And they occupy 2,734 square foot tenant space within the larger building. The cosmetology school will provide a variety of instruction to entry-level students. The enrollment is anticipated to be 10 students with a maximum of 20 students. The program lasts typically 8 to 10 months. There is one instructor, Ms. Canamar, who is the applicant, and she is present tonight to answer any questions if you have any. The hours of operation are provided in the staff report. Monday through Friday, there is classroom instruction where they provide instruction on mannequins until they receive enough instructional hours where they could conceivably service clients on the salon floor. The salon would operate from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. by appointment only, and at this time, Ms. Canamar is the only stylist. The zoning ordinance does require 1 parking space per 200 square feet for retail, personal service types of uses, which would include the salon and the other uses that are in the shopping center. There are a couple of other salons. At the time of P&Z, there were 2 vacant spaces. Now there's only 1 vacant space in the center. There's also a party supply place and a barber shop as well. And so the parking requirement based on the square footage of the space is 64 spaces. There's approximately 59 spaces on the property. You all were provided a revised parking layout. The applicant has had someone go out to certify the opportunity to provide additional spaces on the property. The property was developed back in the 70s, and so the parking space requirement was a little bit different. And so the parking requirement now is a 9 by 18 foot parking space. And so they've indicated that there's an opportunity to add additional parking onto the property by restriping it. And the property owner is here as well to answer any questions related to that. And so they could meet the parking requirement in that regard. The parking requirement for the school, we don't have a cosmetology school parking ratio in the zoning ordinance, and so we apply a similar use with a 1 per 3 student ratio plus the square footage of the salon space. The applicant has, and the property owner has indicated that the 15 spaces that are on the site at the rear of the property will be designated specifically for the students. Again, there may not be parking conflicts at this time. Future tenant uses require different parking. So as long as everything is retail, personal service, it's a 1 to 200 ratio. You know, restaurants 1 per 75. So the use can make the parking change. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that there be a shared parking agreement with an adjacent property owner to address any needs above the parking requirement. So not that the parking requirement couldn't be met, but that anything above that would be provided on the adjacent property. The applicant at the time had indicated 703 Big Stone Gap, which I'll go to a map. 703 Big Stone Gap was under consideration because the property owner had a relationship with the tenant. That shared parking agreement was not executed. They're not looking to pursue that. They're looking to modify the parking on their own property to address the parking need, and so that's how they would like to address that. So you do see the condition from P&Z that has the shared parking agreement, and it's my understanding the applicant would like that to no longer be considered as long as they can restripe their parking lot to meet the parking requirement. Again, a salon is a permitted use, so whether this request is approved or not, the salon can continue to operate through that tenant space. The SUP would allow for both of them to work in conjunction. The surrounding area is primarily retail personal service, but also light commercial. This property was not developed as a retail space. Obviously, when it was constructed, it was developed more as a heavy commercial, industrial type of space, so therefore it is limited in siting for additional expansion. Again, any use that is allowed within the local retail 2 zoning can occupy that space. This is an area map showing the property, which is at the corner of Big Stone Gap and South Cedar Ridge. Again, the property is on local retail too. It does abut heavy commercial and industrial across Big Stone Gap. A general office is to the west across South Cedar Ridge. This is an aerial just reflecting the property. This is a floor plan, but this gives you a better idea of the location in that building where the applicant would be occupies that space currently as a salon, and then if this request is approved, as a cosmetology school and salon. And again, the revised site plan does contemplate 4 additional spaces onto that property, bringing the parking count to 63. So the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend unanimously approval of the SUP with the following conditions. Of note, condition number 3, the shared parking agreement, is my understanding the applicant would no longer like that to be considered, but they can certainly give testimony to that. And then item number 4, the SUP would be granted for a 1-year time period, which allows for an opportunity to review its compatibility and its consistency within the shopping center, and that they maintain all of the conditions that are provided. And then should that be the case, then there's a 1-year, 5-year automatic renewal proposed by P&Z. And again, the applicant and property owner are present. I'll answer any questions if there are any.
Ms. Allen, can you go back to the drawing?
This, yes,
Yes.
sir. Uh-huh.
Those numbers, do they represent?
Parking spaces.
Parking spaces,
Mhm.
okay. But the proposed property in place is where the red outline is?
That's the tenant space.
Okay. But there are other tenants that are in this building, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so they have to share these?
Yes, sir.
And how many students are we talking about?
The initial enrollment is 10 with a maximum of 20. That's the information provided from the applicant.
And you had said that the agreement was for this place behind at 703,
That-
but right
that
now
was-
that's not?
Correct. They've not executed that, and they've been advised to try to meet more of a parking event on their own property rather than entering a shared agreement with that property owner.
Other questions? This is a public hearing, so anyone who would like to speak either for or against this change in ordinance to a special use permit, I would invite you to come to the mic, give your name and address. So at this time, is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roy Cannon. I live at 225 Vanzant County Road, 3509, Edgewood, Texas, 75117. Chastity's just about said all of it. We're here tonight to try to request an approval of that 928. And I built my building in 1975. I am in no way changing the footing of the building. It's now just exactly like it was years ago. I have never had a problem with the police, fire department, of any kind due to over parking. I manage my parking myself, and I've just never had a problem with that. So basically, I have Dave Galbraith here to help me tonight. He knows far more about parking than I do. So any questions that you may have, here I will be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you.
I'm Dave Galbraith, 203 Brookwood Drive, Duncanville. I've known Mr. Cannon for about 35 years plus, and about 30 of those years he's called on me from time to time as a consultant to help him with his building issues. And we've done quite a bit on his property over the years. He is a unique businessman. He's one of those 40-plus year businesses that we like to see in Duncanville, and we try to help them when we can to continue operating in a profitable manner. During the times that I have been on his property, to help him with various building issues. I have never seen more than 2 or 3 people parking in the rear of the property where it's designated 15 parking spaces. That's interesting because you can understand that if you were to pull up to the property from the front, you probably would not want to go around to the back, and that's probably why they haven't parked there. This lease and this SUP is unique in that he's requiring, and the tenant has agreed, to park all of their vehicles in the back in that 15 spaces, freeing up the front. Mr. Cannon and I walked the property, and I suggested to him that he allow me to take some measurements, which you have there on your annotated parking layout. You'll notice that it's 156.5 feet across the front, making that 15 actually 17 9-foot spaces, including a handicap space. The 9-foot spaces are contrasted with over half of them are 10-foot spaces, which is probably what the architect laid out initially years ago. All of the spaces on the Cedar Ridge side are 9-foot spaces. And that seems to be very comfortable for the vehicles. A lot of them, as you well know, are smaller than they were back in 1975. On the south side, you'll see that we have 91 lineal feet of available parking, and we can actually get 10 18-foot long spaces parallel to the building and parallel to the sidewalk instead of the 8 shown. So that picks up 4 additional parking spaces, making the 59 total parking spaces actually 63. My conclusion from knowing him and knowing his operations for so many years, I just have not witnessed any major parking issues. And as I've said, when I go there, it's usually the backyard or the back parking that's empty or almost empty. So my rationale is that the details I've just presented to you support his claim that he has adequate parking on site for his business, and that this SUP does not necessitate off-site parking. And we would respectfully request that you exclude that off-site parking permission from the adjacent landowner from the requirements, because we just don't see that it's necessary. If you have any questions for me pertinent to this, I'll be happy to try to address those.
Thank you. Councilman LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Galsmith, and I'm sorry I didn't get your name.
Dave Galbraith.
No.
Cannon.
Cannon,
Roy
Mr.
Cannon.
Cannon, Mr. Cannon. I live right by this place, and I don't know if this is your issue or maybe a law enforcement issue, but the place that's on the corner that's, I guess, not there anymore, used to be a beauty shop. And on the weekends, there was a mobile barbecue guy that would set up shop in that parking lot right up under the sign, taking parking spaces to the point that on several occasions, the street was blocked. So I don't, again, you're talking about regulating it and people not parking in the back, but, and again, I don't know what the salon will be, but that happens quite frequently at this location. And when I'm coming from my home, which is just south of that intersection, and if people are on Big Stone Gap going west, we can't at times turn because the cars are parked out for a while until he finished selling his barbecue. And I don't know if you were even aware of that, if that's a police issue, but that happens on a frequent, the shop is not there anymore, but I just want you to know that happens quite a bit at that location.
Sir, I have never heard that. I lived in Duncanville until the last 8 years.
Well,
And
I've been here 8 years, so it's been happening since I've been here. I don't know if they knew you left town or what.
That's the first I've ever heard of it, but I assure you that I'll put a quick stop to it.
All right, yeah, just be mindful of I agree with you, Dave, if they knew the places were in the back, but when that portable grill, because it's his truck plus the nice size grill knocks out several of the parking spaces that.
That's the first I'd heard of this
okay,
also.
all right, okay.
But that doesn't mean it didn't happen, it doesn't mean it's not an issue, and it can be an exclusion. In other words, you can't use it for.
No, I'm not trying to nullify what you're trying to do. I just want to make, if that truck is there on a consistent basis, then you won't have these 63 parking spaces that you're talking about.
If that truck shows up there again, I'll take care of it immediately.
And we will check into it as well. That's a code enforcement and a health issue, so we'll make sure the health official knows about it. I haven't seen it. I've seen a barbecue on another property that I let the health official know, but we'll check into that too. But if you monitor your property.
Okay. Anything else, council, you have for these things? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Jameson.
Yes, I don't know if you would be the one to ask, but a lot of times in cosmetology schools, you take in clients. You work on hair. Are you going to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, so that's adding some more people. That's not just 10 students. So that's where you're coming into more parking. And they can be crowded. A lot of people. Sure.
Please give your name and address.
My name is Rocio Kenamar, and I live on 239 Timothy Trail, Duncanville, Texas, 75137. I've been a resident for a year now, and I love Duncanville. So when I decided to open a beauty school here in the area, my first option was here in Duncanville. I was cosmetology substitute instructor at the Duncanville High School for the past 3 years. So this year, my opportunity came forward to open a cosmetology school. When I was looking around the area, I found the perfect square footage requirement for the state board, and which is 2,500 square feet. And it accommodates, depending on the students per instructor. At this time, I'm gonna be the only instructor, and we're only taking in 10 students. The students are not allowed to take any clients till after 320 hours completed. After that, the students will be able to take in clients, but like we were saying before, it will be basically more practice hands-on on mannequins rather than doing a lot of the consumers. So when we bring in clients, it will be only Fridays and Saturdays, not during the Monday through Thursday.
But you would still require parking for clients when you brought them in on Saturdays.
Yes, ma'am, but since we only taking in 10 students per period, which is every 8 to 10 months, our students are going to be parking in the back, and we're only going to be taking a few clients here and then, and we are strictly going to be by appointment because we don't want to affect other businesses around our area.
Well, I don't know if you're successful. I have seen cosmetology schools, and they can become quite crowded because you've got people that come in to see those 10, and then you have people that are coming in behind them, and sometimes it takes longer than was anticipated. So I'm just saying that in that maybe Mr. Galbraith doesn't know how cosmetology schools, they can get real crowded.
Yes, they can, but it's supposed to be controlled by the person who gives you the program. So like if I don't have the proper instructors, I'm not gonna be taking in more than enough students if I can't handle 20. So my goal is to keep at minimum of 20, and every time one student graduates, I'll be able to take a new one in. So the program, since it lasts about 8 to 10 months, depending on how much hours they put into their program, as much as they can graduate, I can take in another student. So I'm not gonna be able to basically take in more than what I'm already required But in consideration to being successful in the future, I'm, considering looking around Duncanville area to move to a bigger building, but that will be, basically in the future.
If I might, in the last 10 or 12 years, we have had a beauty shop located at 928. This beauty shop had between 8 and 10 stylists, which required more parking than what she is requesting at the present time. So, I've been successfully managing that for the last 10, 12 years. Actually, in my opinion, by having students park in the rear and the few people that they would require to have as clients is far less than what I've been dealing with for the last 10 or 12 years.
I think it's important, council, to understand that his unique management of his property is different from many of the centers that we have that are not carefully or not hands-on managed. He's a local manager, he's not absentee. He has security cameras now set up around his property and he monitors those. He also has local monitoring. Would you please address the staggered lease times that can actually have helped you manage and limit the parking within the spaces that you have?
Well, the Zumba class located 930B, I believe, I changed their times. They started off going from 8 to 10 a.m. It partially overcrowded the parking lot. So I changed their times from 7 to 9, which helped a great deal because very few people get there before 9 to have their hair done anyway. So they were gone by 9. That's what I call parking management. So that helped a great deal. Other things that we do, the lady that's located at 930A, Charlotte Hightower, she parks in the rear. We have 15 spaces back there. She's using 10 students. So Charlotte parks in the rear. She's the only stylist in that spot. She requires only 2 parking spaces, and she's been with me 8 years, and that's worked fine. So by managing it properly, we haven't had a single problem. There's very few times that we have not had at least 15 to 25 available parking spaces, whether it be in the rear or at the south side of the building, available for parking at all times.
Except for barbecue squatters.
I have no idea about that barbecue squatter. That's the very first I've ever heard of that.
With Mr. Shannon's understanding and agreement, and I think he's already told me to get out there and get this thing restriped, I would ask the council to look at the 40-year track record of this business and the way he has managed his parking, notwithstanding the barbecue. I mean, that's a glitch that has to be done away with. But nonetheless, at some point, the numbers, the 63, for instance, as the magic number at this point, once we get it restriped, the numbers are relevant, but there is no direct relationship necessarily between every tenant and every parking space. So his track record is virtually impeccable. I mean, it's just outstanding. And I think that would be an appropriate way to make the determination as to whether he gets his SUP without a requirement for off-site property agreement.
If I understood correctly, and I'm not sure that I did because I don't know much about cosmetology either, this is granted for 1 year. And then if we don't do everything that we have promised that we're going to do, what is it, not renewed, or then it's renewed for 5 years. But I assure you, You won't have that problem with me.
Okay, anybody else?
Move to close public hearing.
There's a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Will you please vote? Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve excluding the requirement to have a parking agreement with 703.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
For the record, is this acceptable to the movement? And the second, that in lieu of condition 3, a new condition called parking shall be restriped in accordance with city standards to provide 63 spaces as reflected on the revised Exhibit B. that was
Yes.
provided. Thank you.
Okay, that would be added then. Okay, any further discussion? Will you please vote? Thank you very much. Item number 5B is to consider a resolution approving an amendment to the Economic Development Performance Agreement by and between the City of Duncanville with SWH Duncanville LLC for a rebate of up to $250,000 in hotel occupancy tax to modify the required hotel construction commencement date from 1 year to March 1, 2018, with construction being completed by June 1, 2019.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. In interest of time tonight, I've combined both 5B and 5C into one presentation since they both deal with the same modification to the agreements. SWH Duncanville LLC has requested an amendment to the Economic Development Performance Agreements with the city as well as the Duncanville Community Economic Development Corporation to modify the required 1-year commencement date of the Hampton Inn and Suites Hotel located at 100 I-20, which is next to the Hilton Garden Inn here in Duncanville. Due to unforeseen delays with utility companies and relocating the utility services for the hotel, SWH was not able to start construction within the 1-year specified time in the Economic Development Performance Agreements. And again, that was listed in both performance agreements. I just wanted to provide this picture to the council. It is of the rendering of the proposed hotel, and obviously we're very excited for it to come to town. Just giving a little background in terms of what each development agreement had in it. The City of Duncanville's Economic Development Performance Agreement is to provide a rebate of 35% of the city's portion of the hotel occupancy taxes collected during a 4-year time period in the amount not to exceed the $250,000 for assistance with marketing of the new hotel. The DCEDC grant the performance agreement is for a $45,000 reimbursement grant for development fees paid to the City of Duncanville for the construction of the new hotel. These are all the building permit fees and that type of thing that can be included with the grant. On September 14th, 2017, the DCEDC board voted unanimously to amend the performance agreement with SWH Duncanville from the specified 1-year construction commencement date to 18 months. Based on that, the staff recommends approval of the resolutions approving the amendments to both the cities as well as the DCEDC Performance Economic Development Agreements to modify the required hotel construction commencement date from 1 year to March 1st, 2018, with construction being completed by June 1st of 2019. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you all have this evening. And then also the president of SWH, Peter Dasani, is here this evening as well and is able to answer any questions that you might have in terms of the delay of the process.
Jessica, what was the projected payback on that $250,000?
Just give me one
Time
moment.
limit.
Real quickly, yes, sir. The payback time period was I apologize, just 1 minute. The payback time period was 1.1 years, And the city would experience a net benefit of $2.76 million over the 10-year period that was analyzed.
So in essence, all you're doing is ask us to extend the time on the two grants.
That is correct, yes, sir, for the commencement of construction date.
Okay, all right. Councilwoman Thomas?
Yes, Mayor, if you will read agenda item C, no, yes, I will make a motion to approve both of them, since she did the presentation of both of them.
Well, let's do one at a time.
Okay,
I think
then
it'd be easier.
I move to approve this resolution to grant the extension.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Is there any further discussion on item number B? Please vote. Thank you. Item number C is to consider a resolution approving an amendment to the Economic Development Performance Agreement by and between the Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation with, pardon me, with SWH Duncanville LLC for $45,000 DEDC grant to modify the required hotel construction commencement date from 1 year to March 1, 2018, with construction being completed by June 1, 2019.
Mayor, I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, will you please vote? Okay, thank you. Item number D is to consider appointments to the various boards and commissions, including Board of Adjustment, Park and Recreation Advisory Board, Library Advisory Board, Multicultural Social Engagement Partnership, and the Duncanville Senior Advocacy Commission.
Mayor, I move to appoint Iris Allen on the Park and Recs, Mary Faye Cam on the Multicultural, Carolyn Thompson on the Board of Adjustment, Crystal Smith Ross on the Senior Advocacy Board, and Megan McCain on the Library Board.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Is there discussion? Seeing none, will you please vote? Thank you. Item number E is to ratify city manager's reappointment of John Marks to the Civil Service Commission to fill a 3-year term on the Civil Service Commission to expire October 31, 2020.
Mayor and Council, the Civil Service Commission, as you know, is a 3-member body that oversees our police and fire, acts as an impartial board, and they review or investigate actions over which they have authority. That is set up by the Texas Local Government Code, Section 143. There are 3 members on the board, each serving a 3-year term. Their terms are staggered. This year, Mr. John Marks' term is up, and I propose to reappoint him to the commission. This would be his 3rd term on the commission. He has been a very good member of the Civil Service Commission. He is a retired assistant police chief for the Duncanville Police Department, and so by civil service statute, it does require the governing body to ratify the city manager's appointment to the Civil Service Commission.
Okay, is there a motion concerning item number E?
I move that we ratify the city manager's reappointment of John Marks to the Civil Service Commission.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, will you please vote? Okay, thank you. Item number F is to take any necessary action as a result of the executive session. Executive session was for discussion only. There was no action taken there, so therefore there is no action to be taken on item F. Item number 6, staff reports, staff and board reports. Received the monthly financial report as of August 31, 2017. Oh, okay. Let's drop down. We're missing somebody. Let's drop down to item B, and have the library quarterly report.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Hula Velasquez, Library Director, thank you for having me this evening to present our library quarterly report. For this last quarter and over the summer, we celebrated our summer reading club from June to July. We had 716 completed reading logs and presented 4 grand prizes to readers. These were Kindle Fire tablets that provided by the Friends of the Library to some very happy readers. We presented 72 different programs, including story times, crafts, and performers, with a total of 3,391 attendees over the course of the summer. We also had wonderful help from our 12 teen volunteers, and they assisted our program for a total of 223 hours of assistance. Beginning of November 1st, we are also adding a notary service at the library to the public. This will be librarian Stephanie Lott will be our on-site notary. Work plan items that we completed this last quarter. We completed our inventory of our collection, physically touching all 100,000 items in our collection to ensure what items were actually missing and not available. And out of that, we only had 0.0025% of items that were actually missing. We're also in progress to implement the local modification and classification system, meaning shifting around certain collections in the library. We've also implemented the Librarian on the Loose program, which we initiated in February of 2017. We're doing homebound delivery for homebound patrons, as well as doing a lot more community outreach, including National Night Out. We're also developing and hosting more exhibits and celebrations of cultural heritage throughout the year, including our monthly anime club, Black History Month programs, and related programs. We're also on progress to replace our PC reservation and print software system, which will improve our printing software and introduce Wi-Fi printing to our patrons and the public. We're also in process in that same suite of software that we're buying to improve our point of sale and accept credit and debit cards at the circulation desk at the library. We're also in progress to replace and update all the library furniture, and we're selecting those items as we speak now for the public. Some of our stats for the year of FY17, we had 166,648 visits to the library from our patrons, circulated a total of 101,969 items, physical items that we did. We have done our interlibrary loan. We received 49, lent out 208 items. We added 2,170 unique borrowers to the system. These are unique library cards that we issued, and added 4,547 material items to the collection as well. As you can see also in our classes, we offered 374 different programs or classes with an attendance of 11,395 folks to those programs that we did over the course of the year. Computer usage kits are also very, very popular. 31,865 unique computer logins that we had for our public computers, with a total of 24,685 hours and 54 minutes on that one. We also conducted several reference transactions in person or on the phone at the reference desk, 11,358 transactions that we did. And then, of course, we have wonderful volunteers who assist us in a lot of our programs, and that amounted to 1,641 hours of volunteer assistance that we had at the library. Upcoming events, we will be closed this Friday for maintenance, but we're taking advantage of that day to do in-service library staff training on site. We recently conducted a library card contest where we solicited submissions from youth and adults for designing new library cards. We'll be presenting those submissions to the Library Friends meeting on the 24th, and they'll help us vote to select a winner. We'll have a youth winner and an adult winner, and we hope to present them at a future City Council meeting and honor them. And then we will also be conducting our 3rd annual Boo Bash program on the Friday the 27th in conjunction with Parks and Rec, which is also always a very popular program for us. And that's all I have for you. If you have any questions.
Questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we'll move back up to A, and that's to receive the monthly financial report as of August 31, 2017.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
This report is as of the end of August 31st. And our benchmark is that we should be at about 92% of our expected revenue and expenditures. General fund outlook is very robust still at this time. We ended in August with an unreserved fund balance of $8.9 million. It's 114 days of operations, and that's in excess of the 75-day reserve of $3.1 million. Our overall general fund revenues and transfers are at 87% of the adopted budget, and our total property tax payments are at 100% of the budget. This is about 9% higher than last year. Our sales tax revenue is 7% higher than the same time last year, and what's reflected in the report's 9 months of revenue. June sales tax was received in August because we're always 2 months behind our remittance from the state. Our building permits revenues pretty much blown out at 216%, and that was due to the permits that were issued for some of the robust building for new homes, the hotel, and some independent school district renovations. Our overall general fund expenditures and transfers are about 85%, so we're in good shape there. If you look at the same chart as I do every year, or excuse me, each month, the 2017 budget on a straight line is the purple line that goes straight up, and then the red line is our 2017 actuals through August, and then continuing on the projection for September, and then the blue line is the 3-month previous year average. So you can see that we're expecting our revenues to end the fiscal year on target. And lasering out the property taxes, again, it's the same chart. We always receive the majority of our property tax starting in late November, December, January, February timeframe, and that's because of the due dates on those, and then it levels off for the rest of the year. Our general fund revenue sales tax, again, what our actual receipts have started out the year, even though they're 2 months behind, and they've exceeded our expectations for our budget, and so we anticipate that we're going to end the year probably a little bit above the budgeted amount. Again, our expenditures are tracking a little bit below the purple line, which is our budget, and so we anticipate that we're going to end the year still a little bit below the expenditure amount. We look at the utility fund, and the unreserved fund balance is $6 million. It's 129 days of operations, and fund balance in excess of the 60-day fund balance reserve is $3.2 million. Our water and sewer rate increases that were adopted in 2016 are part of what's driving that. And then also remember that our revenues for the utility fund run 1 month in arrears because of our billing. So the chart here reflects 10 months of activity, and as you can see, our revenues have increased during the warmer months as people use more water, and so we're on target to finish where we budgeted. Same thing with the expenditures. We've been trending just below the budgeted amount, and we anticipate that we'll end the year at or below budget. These are the Innovation Fund projects. Those that are highlighted in yellow are essentially complete, and the others are still on the books and have work remaining on them. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Well, are these projects scheduled to be finished by the end of 2017, the ones that are not?
No, in all likelihood, most of those projects will linger over, but it's not a problem with our fund balance. We still maintain and track the fund balance even though we're crossing over fiscal years, because that money's set aside in the innovation fund, separated out from the other.
So it's not going to impact the new budget?
No, sir.
Okay, this was the last item on our agenda tonight, since we have, sorry about that, it's on the next page. I missed it. Parks and Recreation Quarterly Report. I was trying.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Bart Stevenson, Director of Parks and Recreation. I appreciate the opportunity to come talk to you about some of the activities that have been going on in Parks and Recreation the last couple of months. We do have 3 new staff members to our park maintenance team. The first 2 members are two new park maintenance workers who we've promoted from our seasonal staff, Francisco Avalle and Martin Martinez. And then Garrison Stennett is a new crew leader. You probably recognize Garrison running around in his spray rig. We've added some additional duties to his title. He is now a crew leader over park maintenance as well as his spray duties. We do still have 2 openings, one in parks and one in recreation. We have a irrigation technician position open in parks and a recreation coordinator position open in recreation that we were in the middle of the process for both hiring for those positions. Some of the work plan projects we've completed over the last 2.5 months are the post and cable fencing for Lakeside and Harrington, and that will keep folks from driving on our parks. We have a new senior center coffee bar, and I would be remiss if I didn't show appreciation to both Gail Slager as well as Dr. Dotson for their assistance in putting this project together. I think they did a fantastic job. We have a new exit door at the Central Fire Station that allows folks, our firemen in their dormitories, to be able to exit the building in case of an emergency. And then we've completed the transition from our class recreation software to RecTrack. We do still have a small issue with credit cards that we're working with our IT department and our finance department to resolve. However, we have fully transitioned over to the RecTrack, and we've had no problems. It's been great. In fact, I'll also add that you can see there on the right, we have a new membership card. We've gone from the credit card size to the key fobs, and that has already provided benefits to at least one resident, as on Saturday at the Barbecue and Blues event, I was notified that we had a lost set of keys that were turned in. It had a key fob on it, so I took it over to the recreation center, ran it through our system, found the cell phone number, called the lady. She was frantically looking for them in the park, and she came over to the recreation center and picked them up. So another great benefit of going to the key fob system is that we find lost keys. Some of the other non-work plan item projects we've completed within the last 3 months is that we went through and repainted all of our cast stone signage, both the entryways as well as our parks. We added a picnic station at Little Shenandoah Park, and that's a direct result of a District 4 meeting we had regarding Harrington Park. And we were talking about gates at Harrington Park, but one of the things that came up during that discussion was, hey, why don't we do something with Little Shenandoah? How can we get a picnic station? So we added that to the park. We've added field signage to the soccer fields at Harrington Park. And then also we worked with our Public Works Department to do the parking lot extension at the police station in-house, and I think it's turned out really nice. Some of the things coming up very soon, we've already working on some of our projects for fiscal year 18. We're in the process of working with some vendors on adding a divider curtain wall for the recreation center. Our current curtain is in disrepair. We are working on leasing new cardio equipment for the recreation center. That's great news for all of our members. And then also looking at adding bleacher shades to the DBBI baseball fields at Harrington. And then again, that's a joint project with our baseball association. They are kicking in about $30,000 for that project. Some of the upcoming events, we're continuing to stock Lakeside Park. We have one more catfish stocking next week, and then we'll be transitioning next month to trout for the winter months. As Julio mentioned, we have Boo Bash coming up on October 27th. It's a joint project with the public library, and we're excited about that. And then our Christmas parade is on Friday, December 1st, and it's being titled Duncanville, so based upon Dr. Seuss. So, our park master plan is nearing completion. Since we've last discussed this on September 5th with the council, on September 11th we had a community meeting. On October 9th, our park board reviewed it as well and recommended approval. And the next step is to bring it to you for your consideration. And due to our consultant's schedule, that was now currently scheduled for November 21st. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Seeing none, can I adjourn now? Okay, we've completed all agenda items. It's 8:33, and so we stand adjourned.